and welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. Now, on today's episode, we are going to head over to St. Francis Academy to go and, be with our new class of music students because, we're going to go and, teach music, I guess. But we're also going to, praise Jesus or something. I don't actually know what we're going to do today. But you know what? It doesn't matter because right today, though, we're going to be covering a little movie from 1993, which is a sequel of a movie already. But it is a little movie called Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit, which I already like the title anyway, because it's a fun play on words. So it's always fun. But with this particular movie, though, I couldn't do it by myself because, I like to have guests on every so often to help me talk about a movie, especially if it's maybe one I didn't grow up with or whatever, that kind of thing. And actually, this was a suggestion by my guest today, actually, and very, very happy I was exposed to this. But my guest today is a writer for Bloody Disgusting here and there, part of that family. He also is a newly minted doctor, therapist person. Great, wonderful. And also he is the husband of one of the horror queers. But please welcome to my show, Mr. Ari Drew. Ari, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for the invite, and I'm so excited to chat about this movie.
Yes. I mean, we've been, if anything, I first became aware of you on, I guess the podcast Horror Queers. I mean, you have done a couple episodes, you do the annual episode pretty much, where Trace is like, hey, come on my show. But it's fine. And, I actually do like the episode about I Know What You Did Last Summer, and we could talk about that a little bit with this movie because there's a connection. Yes, but I have listened to some of the other ones. I know you did X-Files, I Want to Believe, Suspiria 2018. I think we differ on our opinions of that movie, but that's okay. Everyone's allowed to have opinions. But anyway,
that's when I will defend till I die too. So. That's a different episode, right?
That's a different episode, and go listen to that one. But yeah. And then I became familiar with you on social media and stuff. And then I don't know, I think I just followed you or something like that. And we've talked back and forth here and there just because, we're gay. We talk to each other sometimes. We're all on the, email list, the newsletter, all that kind of shit. We have the annual meeting.
Yeah, on the agenda.
Yeah. We have the agenda all around, it's constantly changing. But anyway, and unfortunately, we are on Zoom right now, but I cannot see your beautiful face. But that's okay. I do have this nice picture of you to look at as well, just to pretend like you're here. It's spirit. It's fine. But it's all good. But actually, this movie, it was a suggestion by you, because I said, I was like, hey, you should come on my show because, hey, you've been on podcasts before. So, fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, and absolutely.
And I was like, well, you can do obviously a cult movie is, probably the best thing to do, obviously. And you were like, would you maybe do Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit? I was like, sure, let's do it. Because I looked it up and I was like, oh, it is kind of a cult movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And so we've been setting this up as well. So, but I would like to ask you a little bit. My history with this movie, I don't have a history with this movie. My first viewing of it is literally this past weekend. So I had never seen either of these movies ever. I mean, I was familiar with the first one, if anything, because everybody is, but excuse me. But anyway, but I didn't know anything about them because I never watched them. So, Ari, I would like to ask you, what is your history with, I guess, this series of films? I know there's two of them at least. But yeah, what is your history with just Sister Act movies in general? And then I guess if you want to answer as well, what is your particular history with this one in particular?
Yeah. So this is really funny because I grew the first few years of childhood. I grew up in a really kind of loosely supervised space, which I think I've talked about, where I could pretty much watch anything because no one monitored anything I was doing. So yeah. So the video store, you pull, the box or the tape from behind the box and there's no cover art on it. No one really looks. And then my parents ended up really getting into church when I was probably 6 or so. And so everything changed. For a while, I really wasn't allowed to watch horror movies, watch spooky shows. They hated that I watched Buffy. I would sneak watch it every week. But what they did, everything that was okay was basically anything that was like obviously family friendly or that specifically related to, honestly, Jesus and the church. And so I remember we went and saw the first movie. The first movie we saw I saw it on video. My parents had rented it, and I fell in love because I loved music my whole life. I did my undergrad in a field related to music, actually. So yeah, it was kind of like my first real experience outside of Disney with a kind of musical. I mean, it's obviously not a musical in like the narrative sense, because it's, again, the performances are just them performing the songs. But I remember I just loved the joy that kind of comes from listening to this, even now, like, not being someone who's particularly religious. I will sing these like songs from both of these movies at karaoke. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I will praise Jesus because of this movie. That's what it takes.
I also love how you and your husband are just karaoke girls. I really appreciate and love that. Like, that's so funny.
Yeah, that's how we met.
That's so cute. Aw, that's adorable.
Yeah.
So in that situation, are you like a VeggieTales kid, I guess, or like any of that?
Not intentionally, but yeah, like those were things that were always on at home. And I was like, even working at the church, like I would help with the nursery, so like with the young kids, and it was a lot of my middle of my childhood that was spent doing all that.
So you were pretty much Rachel Blanchard in Sugar and Spice then, right? Is that pretty much what that was?
We won't go that far, but yeah, it's in the territory.
Wait a minute. You watched the Apple fucking Dumpling Gang? Really? Like, don't worry. Yeah. It's on the list.
Yes. On the list. There's a whole like a whole group of these like family friendly films that somehow everyone who grew up in the church like ended up watching. It was like your freebies, and there were just different ones like that, or like the Buttercream Gang, and lots of like, yeah, of course, like the VeggieTales stuff. Anything that was like religiously coded was okay in that time, until I became a teenager and I was like, fuck this, and I just started rebelling and watching what I wanted again.
Absolutely.
But
yeah. I mean, I love that you're so vulnerable, and you were just, you shared that with me. No, I totally get that. I mean, for me, like, I didn't grow up any sort of religious whatsoever. Like, nope. It's funny because my mom is like since become Christian or whatever, back in her, my younger days, I guess. But I mean, I'm pretty staunchly an atheist, I guess. Like, I'm just like, okay, I don't really, whatever. Thank you, Julia Sweeney, because I think she kind of helped turn me into an atheist. But that's a whole other story for a whole other day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that sounds like another episode there.
all I'm saying, Julia Sweeney, that's right, from SNL and shit. Go watch Letting Go of God, because it like really impacted me at a certain time. But anyway, but yeah, that was my experience. I really didn't grow up with it like that. So for me, at least, like, I don't know, it's not like I thought like, oh yeah, these movies are super duper religious or whatever, but like I literally was like, well, I mean, that's an aspect in there, I guess, if anything. But yeah, no, totally. And then also, like, I mean, of course, like I loved like I love the movie Saved. Like, it is such a serve. I did talk to Brian Danley for like a half hour before, and was able to. We're also Baltimore guys. He's from Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And he like and if you know the movie, but like the movie's set in Baltimore, Canadian Baltimore.
Oh, I don't know that I knew that, actually. That's interesting.
It is. It's set in Maryland, so like it's supposed to be like Maryland. It's very Canadian. But yeah, no, that movie's so good though. But regardless of religious talk, though. But yeah, this movie, like, to me, I was like, yeah, that's what this is, I guess. But if anything, so you talked about that one. So what about in particular with Sister Act 2, though, as well? Oh, yeah. Is there anything in particular that kind of made you be like, wow, this movie, like, what was it about this particular film that was kind of like interesting to you, where you would be like, I'd want to talk about it with this other gay guy,
Yeah. So honestly, like I remember when I was a kid, I would fast forward through a lot of like the mob stuff, and with Whoopi Goldberg's boyfriend and all that. because I was like, this is boring. I just want the songs. And really, that's what I would do for a while. So anything with the sisters kind of, in their little hijinks going to the bar and all that. I just really liked that about the first one. And again, I love it wholly. Like, I think they're both fantastic movies. But with this one, we actually saw it in theaters right when it was at the end of its run. I remember my parents took us, and I think we went like after church one afternoon. And so I just remember being so like energized by it and the performances and the singing. And I thought it was just like peak, kind of like that the 90s era with like the hip hop and pop influences and the music, and making, this kind of like music about God be really appealing. And that was kind of a thing for me that felt really novel at the time, because a lot of the stuff that I was listening to, exposed to was just church, and church due to praise and worship team singing it. So there wasn't a lot of like fun, hip performances about God. So this movie was kind of just, it was so novel for me in that way. And I was obsessed. I remember whenever I finally got it on tape, I wore that shit out. I was like watching it, like performing in my room. Like, my mom had caught me performing a couple of times to this. She thought it was very entertaining. I was really embarrassed, of course, but it just kind of is one of those movies that stuck with me. And then like, it felt like such a private thing. Like, it was something that I just really, really liked. And I didn't know that other people liked these movies that much. And now, obviously, with like hindsight, I definitely have recognized like their cult status and all that. So it just kind of was just one of those special comfort movies for me, particularly the second one. And I would watch that straight through over and over and over again.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's cool about it too is that, like, yes, it's good to have watched both of them, but it is fun that you really could watch the second movie like by itself and you'll still pretty much get it. Like, it's still like, I don't know if it stands alone necessarily, but it kind of does. I actually would argue that it does, because sure, why not? Again, you don't need all of the shit with like Harvey Keitel in the first movie, like, really, to understand what the second movie is, which I kind of like, actually. At some point when I do a Spice World episode, and it's going to happen at some point.
As you should.
As I should. And I will do it, but I also have a fun story to tell, and that juncture I will not share right now. I'll save it for another day. But yeah, no, and I think we'll talk about this movie because, like, there's a certain level of camp that's in this, I feel like. Absolutely. And we could dig into all that. And yeah. But as we normally do on the show, we're going to go into some production history of the movie, figures of the movie, things like that, and all that good stuff. So let's move into a little bit of that. So this is called Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit. Again, love the title because I think it's such a fun play on words. It's just like really funny. So this came out December 10th of 1993. So when you're hearing this, it will just, we're just around, I think I am turning into dust as I say this, but it is like the 30th anniversary, which is ridiculous and crazy. I'm turning into dust as I say it, Ari. I swear to God. Anyway, we're looking at a 107-minute runtime. And then this was distributed by Buena Vista Pictures Distribution. So there are girlies who did, Adventures in Babysitting, Romeo and Michelle, all of the kind of more adult fare with Disney, but this is technically a Disney movie, which is why it's playing right in the background without sound on Disney Plus. So that's fun. And I think what's nice too is that you could stream this on Disney Plus, and I don't think you're going to get anything too different from what's on streaming to what is on physical media. It's not like, you don't have the Thor as a homo from Adventures in Babysitting. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, it's not that chopped up or anything really at all. And then 35 million, or I think $38 million budget estimated or so. So, they put some money into this. Now, when we're talking about the opening weekend ranking gross, we're looking at, it was at number 3, and I gotta look at my phone, but, so it opened with $7,569,219. So pretty all right opening. And then in regards to just like its domestic gross and all that, we have about $57,317,029. So that's nice. And then apparently, according to I think Box Office Mojo or something, or the numbers or wherever I got this from, we're looking about 67.3 million estimated. I don't really know what I don't know if that's true, but okay, whatever. So really altogether, like when you look this up normally, it's about $124 million that this movie grossed overall. So not too bad, but it is noted that, well, the first one made $240 million. And so this one kind of paled in comparison, but I'm just like, eat a bag of dicks. Like, what are you talking about? Like, whatever. Like, anyway. Okay, and this is okay, you already know I don't fuck with these reviewers like half the time. No offense, Trace. No offense, Joe. No offense, anybody. Whatever. But 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. I can't do it.
That is, I mean, that's a shame too. I feel like there's been, especially over the last couple of decades, like there's been a reappraisal of this in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just kind of like, come on, folks, let's get some like updated reviews up here to really reflect how the people feel,
Exactly. I mean, like, seriously, like 18%. And you know what's horrible is that this was actually lower, I think, before, which is really fucking annoying. But anyway, but the audience score has 61%. So you know what?
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
They get it.
And then 3.1 out of 5 on a Letterboxd, which is the voice of the people, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, like, I think this movie, and we could talk a little bit about it too. I think this movie yes, it's like the sequel of it all. I think that this movie also kind of faced a similar challenge to something maybe like Baps did. I did do an episode about Baps. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have. It's been years, but yeah, I'm very.
It's so good, and I love that movie. And I think it also ran into that a little bit as well, because this movie is not exactly made for the majority Caucasian audience. Let's just say that much. But
yeah, no, that's
it really wasn't, but we can get into that too, because so then our cast and crew of the movie. So our crew, we have Bill Duke. So Bill Duke is an actor turned director, really. So he directed this movie. Now, I don't really know what other notable things he directed, to be honest, but he is from the movie Mandy with Nick Cage. He's in that movie. I guess he's I don't remember who the fuck he is, but he's, I guess, one of the cult members, I guess, or he's somewhere in there. He's the one, he's probably the one black guy there. Who knows? Probably. Like, let's be real. He was in the Predator movie, so he was in that movie as well, and he was in Red Dragon, so he also is in the Hannibal franchise somewhere, which is fun. Now, I will say this too. So I didn't realize this, and I'm just kind of like, maybe like there's 3 credited writers on this movie. So I have James Orr, Judi Ann Mason, and then Jim Cruickshank. Now, I believe that if anything, I think James Orr and Jim Cruickshank, I feel like they were a writing duo of some sort or something like that. Like, I feel like they were, because really the only thing I found from them was that they are the same people who did 3 Men and a Baby. So they also wrote that movie. And we'll also talk a little bit about the first movie once we get into that, because I have things to say. But our composer for this movie, who we have to thank for this wonderful music, is Miles Goodman. Some of the things that he did was he was a composer in Little Shop of Horrors and also La Bamba as well. Just kind of nice, and shows that he has some range with this, because a lot of the songs in here are absolute bangers. And then Oliver was our cinematographer, so our DP. He did, to be honest, I mean, I don't know if he's just like a Disney like cinematographer or anything. He did do Freaky Friday, though. He also did Step Brothers as well. He did Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, and he also did the sequel to Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is Bogus Journey. And I'm a Bill and Ted boy myself, so that's nice to hear. That's nice to see. And then also we have 3 credited editors on here. But to be honest with you, I would really say mostly, well, they all are actual editors. The main editor that was on this movie, I think, is just James Carter. So James Carter is kind of a known editor in the film world. I think he has since passed away now, but he did like Friday, Set It Off. I think he also worked on Groundhog's Day and 9 to 5. I'm not mistaken. I think he also did White Chicks when he was an older man. So, but he did quite a few different movies, some of which are in the Black culture, of course. But also, why not? And then my writing is so small. Oh my God. Pem Herring and then Stuart Papp, I believe, were the other two editors. And they did things like American Pie 2, I think one of them worked on, and also George of the Jungle, I think the other guy worked on. So James Carter did a couple more of those like earlier credits, and then some of these later credits were really from these other two guys. So, but again, when you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen like that, I don't know how to feel about that half the time. I'm just like, wait a minute, like this could get really jumbled and all over the place. But thankfully, I don't think that bogged down this movie too bad. Do you have any thoughts about that kind of like movie that has that?
Yeah, so I think it kind of depends because, like, just from what I know of the screenwriting process, the filmmaking process, editing, all that. I mean, anyone who can get, their name in credits by contributing at least a little bit, like, I get that that's, maybe a reason sometimes why you see like so many writers or so many editors or whatever the case is. And it can be messy, but I think generally you can kind of tell in just kind of the structure of the film or the cuts or, if it's something where, there were way too many people with their hands on this. And I don't feel that way in this movie at all. Granted, I mean, I've seen it a ton. And so maybe even if there are any weird editing things, like I'm just so like, I've just, I guess, assimilated those into my, my knowledge of the movie. And like, it's like a quirk or something. So
Right.
Yeah. So, that's kind of how I feel about that.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And there's something to be said for that, for sure. So that's like our crew for the movie, kind of notable folks as well. Now, I mean, in this, particular situation with our cast. So again, this is a sequel, but we have Whoopi Goldberg. In my notes, I literally just says that she has a damn EGOT. Like she just does. That's all I have to say. I mean, come on. Like, anyway, so yeah. So Whoopi Goldberg, there's no explanation. Like, she's Whoopi Goldberg. Come on. Kathy Najimy, I'm horrible, and I just put in my notes, Mayama Peggy Hill. She is not just, to me, she will always be Peggy Hill. I mean, come on.
Nothing wrong with that. We love Peggy Hill.
We love Peggy Hill. She might not know Spanish to save her life, but god damn it, it's fine. Because you and your husband also lived in Texas for like a long time, and you both are from there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine that Mike Judge, I think, was probably with that character and really those characters in general, definitely commenting on some of the people that you get from Texas. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. And then he does that too in Beavis and Butthead, which I'm also a huge fan of.
Oh, completely. Yeah, totally. Where's that set? I was in Beavis Butthead kid, so I don't know.
The movies, I would say the revival of it, not that we're meant to talk about that, but the revival seasons have been so good. And the newest movie, I think, is really fun. So if you've ever not been like, because Trace never liked that type of humor, and he's liked all the newer stuff. So I'm like, okay, thank you for seeing my perspective.
Right. I was going to say, is it set in any particular place, or is it just anywhere USA?
No, it's set in Texas. They live in a town called Highland. Which is actually like an Austin reference. There's some neighborhoods and places with the name Highland. So I guess it's meant to be like maybe on the outskirts of like an Austin or something.
Sure, let's go with that. Yeah. Also, Ari, I don't know if you know my show, but tangents are welcome on here. So
I just always feel bad. I do it all the time with any appearance. It's just really easy to get excited,
Oh, it's all good. I literally talk about cult movies, some that are trash and some that are wonderful. So, I mean, I welcome it.
Sometimes they're one and the same.
Yes, exactly. And we love our trash. Okay. Anyway, so then Maggie Smith, also she's a professor at Hogwarts. She's not just a professor at Hogwarts, but she also is just a bad bitch, and she's like Dame Maggie Smith. Like, come on. Like, I mean, let's be real here. I also put James Coburn on here for some reason. I don't know. I mean, sure. Like, does he play the principal in this movie? God damn it. Who is he again? Oh, God.
So he is, yes, he is.
He's that guy.
I guess like the superintendent. The way he's really, he's Mr. Crisp. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yep. He's in Monsters, Inc. and then a professor. So that's fun. Of course, Lauryn Hill. This is her film debut. And I put in my notes that she won 5 Grammys. because she absolutely did.
Because she did.
So,
and that album's fantastic. So
and that album is so good.
Yeah. Think what you will about her over the years, but she can sing. And
problematic fave, Lauryn Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, but she's great in this movie, I think, personally. And then we also have Alana Ubach in this movie. You and me were messaging a little bit. I have in my notes that she's in the Brady Bunch movie, which she is. But also, I mean, my God, you literally... yes, I mean, like, oh God, Alana Ubach, I love her so much. You said she's the unsung MVP of like any movie she's in, and I 100% agree with that. She is.
Yeah, she's one of those character actresses, I think, in like the 90s and in the early aughts that like I just always followed. Like, I just really loved seeing her. She was in like popping up in Legally Blonde as one of the friends, Reese's friends. And then recently she's been in Euphoria, and she is outstanding.
Yes, she is. I'm not a Euphoria girly like that, but yes, she is. Oh my God, like I could go on about a lot of Ubach because I love her so much. Like, she's in Freeway.
I was about to say that. Yeah. Oh, she's
in Freeway.
She hams it up in Freeway, but it's so good. And I just love that character. And she gets the shit beat out of her.
She gets the shit beat out of her. It's so good. Oh my God. Freeway and fucking... Have you watched Clock Watchers before?
I haven't. No, I know about it, but I've never watched it.
You should watch it. It's really good. She plays one of the temps at the place. So Toni Collette, Lisa Kudrow, Parker Posey, and Alana Ubach all play temps who work at an insurance company or whatever. And it's so fucking good. Oh God, I love everyone. Watch Clock Watchers, please, because not Clock Stoppers. That's with Jesse Bradford. Not that one. Clock Watchers. And I haven't watched. Listen, talk about Mike Judge. I haven't watched Office Space. I'm sure it's a good movie. Like, don't get me wrong, but people always want to say like, "Oh, Clock Watchers is like the female Office Space or whatever," and I'm just like, why y'all gotta do that? Like, why can't you just let something? I'm not saying it's diminishing it, but I'm just like, why you gotta say that? Like, it also came out before, let's be real here. It also came out before Office Space did. So let's get that first. And then also, like, fuck you. Like, it's a perfectly good movie on its own. Don't say like, oh, it's like the female Office Space. Fuck you.
Yeah, I think that's really just kind of reducing it to a certain type of movie and like taking away like the talent and like the different approaches. And again, I haven't seen it. But I think it's amazing.
I think it's great. It's so good. Kitty Foreman plays like the HR manager in that movie. Oh my God. It's decent. Please watch it. It streams.
Yeah. Adding it to my list.
Please do. Yeah. It's like that. And then like, or like Romy Michelle being like, oh, the female Dumb and Dumber. I'm like, y'all need to fuck out here with that.
God.
Like,
that movie is so beyond out of here with that description. Yeah, I hate that. That's
yes.
Not right.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. We can get into it, but we're not going to on this one because I can't. Because I just fucking hate that. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
Also, Michael Jeter's in this movie, and in my notes, he is Mr. Noodle, god damn it. And I'll tell you this much, because I did message you about this. So he plays the guidance counselor in this movie. He plays one of the friars, whatever they call male people that aren't nuns.
Yeah. I never quite got that. I just was like, oh, he's the cute one. He's so nice.
Yes, he's so nice. Yeah. But he's Mr. Noodle from Elmo's World, or Sesame Street, whatever the hell. He did that later in his life. But I messaged you and I was like, I knew it. I was like, I knew he was gay. I knew it because I looked him up. And then I was like, I then found out that he literally was, he's since passed away, unfortunately, due to complications with HIV. But so rest in peace. But like, he was a gay man, like, and he had a partner and everything like that. Like, I was like, I knew Mr. Noodle was gay. I knew it. I felt vindicated when I watched that. He just gives the vibes.
Yeah. And I love that. I love, that's the thing with this type of movie too, is like, I think it kind of works really well in coding, for those of us that need to see like the softer man, whatever. Yeah. Not that I would ever call myself a soft person, but like as a kid, it was just kind of nice. Like, soft, you gravitate.
Feminine. Yeah.
We have, but we have our like, our antennas go up whenever we feel like, oh, I get that person in a different way. That's kind of I think it's part of
as soon as survival. I saw him. As soon as I saw him and as soon as I heard him, I was like, oh my God, he's gay. I gotta find him. He is gay. And I found him. Yes, I did. I really did. Yeah, so that's like the cast. We also have other people in here too. I mean, of course, like, Ryan Toby is in this movie as well. He plays Amal. He's the guy who has the iconic like high note in this movie.
Yes.
Do you also know what else he did?
He was in City High.
Yes, he did the song. Yeah.
What would you do if your son was at home? Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
He's that guy.
I remember when I recognized that was him, I was just like, Sister Act 2, like, yay, I'm so glad. Like, these people are having careers, and it was very
yeah, and he's really also he did that. So he's the what would you do if your son was at home guy. He's the guy who wrote that with another guy, and then a woman as well who were part of City High. But also he has written songs for Usher and Justin Bieber and stuff. So like, he's still performing. He's still doing his thing. So also Lauryn Hill is currently on my screen, and I'm just like, yes, bitch. Yes. I'm just saying. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, and my little fun facts I have for this movie. I mean, obviously, for example, like at the same time of filming this movie, Whoopi was doing her voices for The Lion King because this movie came out a year before that. So I wouldn't be surprised if around that time, especially since this, that was an animated movie she did, you probably do the recording a little bit earlier, obviously. So it makes sense that she would do that. Apparently, James Coburn had really bad arthritis. So if you notice in this movie, they don't really show his hands a whole lot, probably because they were fucking like shaking and arthritic. So that's not good. That's not great.
It's off brand for the film. We don't need
I guess so. I'm sorry that you're an older man and you literally have bad arthritis. So we're just gonna like cover your hands and not show them very much. Good thing. I get it. Two of the students in this movie, specifically David Cater and then Dee Magno, they were actually in the before times of Britney and Justin and all that. They were on the all new Mickey Mouse Club. So this is back in the 80s and early 90s before you had like Christina Aguilera and all them on there. Although I do think that probably one of them was still on there when they were on there. If you want to have fun, everybody, please go on YouTube and just look up all the Mickey Mouse like intros. Because I definitely did that before, and it's a fucking trip. I really like it.
No, it's hilarious. It's such a moment in time that it's just like, I do love like that kind of era of stuff because I'm a big pop boy. I grew up like loving all the pop acts, and so seeing everyone come out of that, I was like, hell yeah, look at you now.
I know. I'm just saying, do yourself a favor, watch all the theme songs where they all say their names. It's so funny. And also Whoopi Goldberg, because nepotism is just everything. Her daughter Alex is one of the students in the music class, which makes total sense. Also because she doesn't look like her really very much. It's not like they have like a family resemblance or anything. So it makes sense to just throw your daughter in there. I would. Shit, why not? And also the director of this movie, because he is an actor, he is also in the movie. He plays the street sweeper when a mall is like on the street or something like that, and there's like a street sweeper who's like sweeping the sidewalk. And he says like, "You need to get out of here" or whatever. That's literally the director of the movie. Boy. Yeah, he works outside of the bodega. Right? That is him. Yes. But yeah, it's a little bit about my little like information about the movie. Now we got to talk a little bit about. Before we move into any kind of like, a little bit of plot breakdown or any of that kind of shit we're going to do today, we got to talk a little bit about the first film of this, particular series, I guess, because this is a sequel, so obviously we do have to talk a little bit about it. So really the way that this movie came to be, I will also say too, this movie was actually, was it not produced by him? Okay, good. Maybe it wasn't. I was going to say, I thought this was a Scott Rudin production, and I don't think it is, but it actually might be though. Wait a minute. Let me look real quick. Oh yeah. This is, God damn it. So the first one was not a Scott Rudin production, technically. This movie is. Also, we hate Scott Rudin. He's a piece of shit, but he made some banger movies though. Like I will say that, but he can fuck all the way off. I'm just saying, like, and I said this about Bryan Singer too. Like, I literally said this, like, when I talked about Trick or Treat, and I was like, the worst thing to me is also that he's gay. Like, because I'm like, we don't claim you. Like, we do not claim you. You're a piece of shit. And you made some good movies, I guess, or like whatever. But like, it makes it worse that you're gay because we cannot claim you. Like, ew. Go away. Anyway. Yeah,
it's especially with those allegations too. I'm like, thanks for propagating like all of these terrible stereotypes that many of us have tried for years and years.
Yeah. Well, Bryan Singer definitely did that because he's a piece of shit. And then also with Scott Rudin, he's just more so an awful employer. I don't know if he might have had sexual allegations against him. Who knows? But it was just more so that he was just a fucking horrible boss, and he cultivated a not great work environment. Not the same, but like not like Jimmy Fallon, but like, you know, he just wasn't a good employer, which doesn't help either. Anyway, but the first movie though, I mean, really, this movie came about. Really, I mean, from what I could understand, at least, Paul Rudnick, who is wonderful and a gay man and wrote, again, banger movies, Sister Act, Adam's Family Values, In and Out, all these good things. He really brought this, he pitched it to Scott Rudin in 1987, and he had Bette Midler in mind for the role of, I guess, Dolores or Sister Mary Sister Mary, what's her name? Oh my God.
Sister Mary Clarence.
There you go. And it fits. It makes complete sense how they would have Bette Midler on tap to want to do this, or especially because by that time, I mean, she would have been about to be in Beaches, which I think was that a Buena Vista movie? I feel like it was. Oh God, it might have been.
I actually don't know. Let's see.
Oh yeah, look at that up real quick. But yeah, so I mean, anyway, so Bette Midler, right? Like, you know, she was kind of thought of to be the lead, right? Which makes total sense. However, she turned on.
It was distributed by Buena Vista and produced by Touchstone as well.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I think you can get it in the UK on Disney Plus, but for some reason they don't have it on Disney Plus here, which I just think is a little weird, but whatever, it's fine. I know, right? It makes no sense. Anyway, she turned that down, though, feeling that her fans would not want to see her play a nun. Which, I mean, I guess, like, her fans are, like, women and gays. So, I don't know, maybe, but whatever. But yeah, so eventually, though, Whoopi Goldberg signed on to play the lead. And as this commenced, though, as the production commenced, the script itself was rewritten by a bunch of different people, including Carrie Fisher, who did work as a script doctor before, Robert Harling, and also Nancy Myers. And with this movie no longer resembling his original script, Rudnick actually asked to be credited with a pseudonym in this film, deciding on Joseph Howard, which is why this movie was technically written by Joseph Howard, I guess, but it's actually Paul Rudnick. So he didn't do the Alan Smithy necessarily, but, you know, he did the Lona Williams when Sugar and Spice came out. You know what I mean? Which really, actually, it's kind of for the same reason, actually. It was just so different than what he envisioned it to be that he was just like, yeah, I still want to get my credit a little bit, but I don't want my name on this movie because you changed my shit. So
yeah. Makes sense.
There you go. Makes total sense. But yeah, I mean, that's like how the first movie came to be. And then probably just because like Whoopi Goldberg is fucking great, honestly. And I think that movie is just so good and wonderful. I mean,
oh yeah.
You know, this movie seemed to do pretty well in regards to, you know, positive reception and everything. Some of the things we have, like Roger Ebert gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars. He wrote that Goldberg and Wicks, who that is, oh gosh, wait a minute. She is one of Mary Lazarus.
Yeah, the older nun. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The grumpy one.
The grumpy one that was the choir nun before, yes. Mm-hmm. They both offered humorous performances, but the film overall plays like a missed opportunity due to slow pacing and trouble integrating the organized crime scenes into a comedy film. So that was something he said, at least. Which, again, I kind of understand that because, yeah, how do you make that funny, I guess? But I really don't think that movie hinges on those scenes really at all. I think it's more so about just like the relationship between the sisters and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what it really seems like more for me, as a viewer, if anything. And also some fun little things too. So a controversy in like lawsuits so of Sister Act. So apparently Donna Douglas, who's an actor, and her partner, they filed a $200 million lawsuit against the Walt Disney Corporation, Whoopi Goldberg, Bette Midler, and their companies and creative CAA agency. They claimed that the film was plagiarized from the book A Nun in the Closet, which was owned by the partners. And so Douglas and Wilson argued that in 1985 they had developed a screenplay for the book, which had been submitted to Disney, Goldberg and Midler 3 times during 1987 and 1988. And they noted over 100 similarities between the movies and the book screenplay as evidence of plagiarism. And in 1994, Douglas and Wilson declined a $1 million offer in order to win the case. The judge found in favor of Disney and the other defendants, and Wilson stated at the time that they would have had to copy our stuff verbatim for us to prevail. Which, okay, I mean, sure, I guess. That doesn't sound the best. It doesn't sound very off to Disney, honestly. Right. Disney has its dealings, if anything. Cool company, maybe, I guess, but they could treat their employees better, probably, at the parks. Because that's still an issue a little bit.
Yep.
Anyway, and then also in 2011, a nun named Dolores Blakely also filed a lawsuit against the Disney Corporation and Sony Pictures, who claimed that the Harlem Street Nun, an autobiography she wrote in 1987, was the basis for the 1992 film. Now, that seems like, I'm going to get to that in a minute, because she alleged that a film executive expressed an interest in a movie rights after she wrote a 3-page synopsis, and she sued for breach of contract, misappropriation of likeness, and unjust enrichment. But she dropped the original lawsuit in January 2012 to get a better lawsuit later that year, asking for $1 billion in damages from Disney.
Jeez. I mean,
in 2013, sure. And in 2013, the Supreme Court for New York dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice, awarding no damages to Blakely. I mean, listen, that sounds like some Elvira shit to me, or like some like Paz de la Huerta type shit. Hey, I love Paz de la Huerta. Don't worry. I listened to that episode about Nurse 3D, and I've watched Enter the Void. Listen. Oh, I'm covering Nurse on the show too. Don't you worry. That's coming because it's going to have an anniversary soon.
Good.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That movie is kind of amazing. Oh, but that sounds like to me like a little bit different. Like, oh, excuse me. I want $1 billion because you ripped off my script you ripped off my story I wrote. Okay. All right. Delois, I don't know about that. I
don't know if she had a leg to stand on with that.
I don't know about that. Again, sounds like some Elvira shit a little bit. I'm just saying, like, Mila Nurmi, what are you doing? Like, I don't. Anyway, but that's the first movie, though. So, I mean, duh, bitch. Like, this movie did really well, money-wise. So they were like, hey, yo, let's make another movie, obviously. And so this movie was put into production really quickly, which is kind of if anything, it's kind of a criticism of the movie because people say that it is very rushed, which sure, maybe, kind of, sort of, I could see it. Because again, it really did come out like the next year, which is crazy to me. But yeah, I mean, if anything, I'm trying to see if there's any like fun information or anything like that. But yeah, no, I mean, but this movie came out because the first one did good. So there's that. And then also, like, I don't know, like, this movie seemed to just be like, hey, let's put Dolores Van Cartier. She's like going to do a service now. She's just going to like go undercover as a nun. Let's put her in a school, right? But yeah. Oh, we also forgot to mention, though, during the casting part, that the patron saint that is Jennifer Love Hewitt is in this movie, and she was like 14 when she was in it. What a blessing.
I thought that we were just saving that because it's so important.
I mean, but it is at some point. Oh God. I mean, listen, Julie James kind of is not the greatest final girl. However, Jennifer Love Hewitt, amazing. Like,
love her. Yes, we love her. Should have been Helen, but that's fine. We love J Love.
We do love J Love and other things. It's fine. But yeah, no, I think this movie though. So yeah, it got, I think a big part of this. So there are some good articles about this movie. I think one of them I'll shout out real quick. One is from And Escape is what it looks like, which is How Did Sister Act 2 Become a Classic Musical, by David J. Dennis Jr., which was done back in 2019. So, I'll pull from a little bit of stuff that I found from it. But, with Sister Act 2, so, I mean, it didn't technically do as good financially or whatever. And it did worse critically, if anything. But what I also think, though, is that I don't think people were like ready for this movie at that time. I don't know. Because what it seems like, at least. So I'm reading this from the wiki page. But I think a lot of this does come from these different articles I looked at. So at the time of its release, this movie was panned by film critics. However, it began to resurface in syndication as people like Jennifer Love Hewitt and Lauryn Hill became like cultural like icons, you know, in the 90s. And it's also been reassessed over the years by modern journalists and is considered a standard in Black cinema, which I can agree with. I just said that David Dennis Jr., he proclaims that the, quote, cultural impact of Sister Act 2 is felt across movies, music, and even your Sunday church services.
Yep.
And then Rotten Tomatoes referred to the movie as a landmark for diversity for film, released in its time, and a showcase of representation in mainstream American movies. Furthermore, the film has received praise by Vice as a work of art whose ambition and execution redefined what sequels can do. And then also some of this information as well comes from that David Dennis Jr. article, where along with this movie, along with gospel musician Kirk Franklin, has been credited with helping to usher in a new era of gospel music that made the genre more palpable to a wider audience by incorporating hip hop and rhythm and blues. So Selena Johnson said that, quote, Sister Act 2 was part of the movement to bring all of that mainstream. The film's popularity seemingly led to a spike in interesting glee clubs and choirs, which we'll talk about. Because, they even talk about how it's a precursor to something like Joyful Noise, Glee, obviously, and all of this. In Japan, apparently, this inspired the creation of nearly 30 choirs in the country. And entertainer Ken Taylor stated that, quote, what happened was the business in Japan, who was quick to adopt these fads, started offering gospel choir lessons. It wasn't the church, but the community centers that had these choirs. So here were non-Christians, because their whole lot of Christians in Japan, because a lot of them are like Buddhists or like, whatever they practice in the Asian countries. So you have some Christians over there, but not a bunch, saying that they wanted to sing like the nuns in the movie, which I guess makes sense. Like, why not? God, what else is there? Yeah. And I think also just having someone like Lauryn Hill in this movie too, I think she definitely being somebody, I mean, she was this person who, God, what was it? Did she go on the Apollo or something like that? She was on a TV show back in the day. She got booed. You can like find that shit online. And she was just like, nope, I'm still going to sing, bitch. And this movie just shows that as well. But people really cite her. Like Janelle Monáe has said that it was a source of inspiration for her acting career. Like if Lauryn Hill could have done it, I could do it. Katy Perry said the only secular music she was allowed to listen to was like this film's accompanying soundtrack, apparently. Which is kind of funny. Right. Apparently, Harry Styles has said that Ryan Toby's singing in this movie was like, an inspiration for him to pursue a music career. Sure, why not? Oh, and also like Jennifer Hudson has said a few things too. A friend of the show, Jennifer Hudson, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if anything, and this is also in Broad City too. That's kind of fun. Did you watch Broad City at all?
I did. I love Broad City.
Apparently,
I went to school with Ilana.
Oh, look at you. Love that. Yeah. So then Joyful was reenacted in the Game Over episode. That's kind of fun. Yeah. But I think if anything, like, I mean, I think before, well, okay. So let's give the listeners a little something. Ari, in a way, there's not a time limit on it, this or anything. But if you had to explain to somebody who's never seen this movie before what this movie is about, how would you describe Sister Act 2?
Well, again, I don't want to reduce it to like this version of that, but I would say it is an inspirational story about a friend of the church who has her own unique approaches to teaching and basically wrangles kids at this school. That's, kids at a school where they don't have a lot of maybe support or resources that other schools do, finding them or getting them to really kind of engage in their passion for music and singing. And it turns out they're all very good at it. So at least all the ones in the music class. So yeah, I guess that's my broad strokes description there.
Sure, I like that one. That's very good. I think if anything, like, yeah, this movie is pretty much about Dolores Van Cartier. She was a lounge singer. Go see the first Sister Act, I guess. But pretty much she is brought on by the church that she was a part of beforehand, because they've all moved over to be teachers in a Catholic school, I guess, in San Francisco. And so there's this unruly class of music people who think that it's just like an easy class that they're going to like pass in.
A bird course.
A bird course. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it, like cakewalk, whatever. And Dolores is like, no, I'm not going to do that. So Sister Mary Clarence, she goes under. Yeah. Like pretty much just shows them like, hey, you know what? Like, you need to be about it, like either put up or shut up kind of a thing, like, like do it. And yeah, she fosters these kids' love and interest in music where they are able to, win and triumph, which is really wonderful. And they end up saving their school in the end, which is really cool too. So that's like the baseline understanding, or the baseline of just like fake nun gets put into school and helps the children learn how to love music and to harness their inner strength and their inner power, if anything.
Which is it's so interesting too, like that this is the direction they went after the first, because the first had some like, some kind of like tense drama as part of it, just given that she escaped a mobster who wants her dead.
Exactly.
And the nun, the convent ends up being her safe haven. And it's kind of like, oh, we went from there and like, a gun, someone gets shot at the end of the first one. And this one is just completely like, no, we're going to keep it light and fluffy here.
No, absolutely. And I think that really helped it as well. Because like I was saying a little earlier, the scenes with the mob and Harvey Keitel and all that stuff, it feels different. It never gets deep like that. It never gets like to this weird, like fucking, mob story. It's not that, but it's also just like, it's just different. There's an interesting tone going on, whereas I think this tone is a lot more consistent, if anything. So I can really appreciate that. Which is nice. Yeah, totally.
It's why I think this one should have, like, I'm surprised it wasn't as successful in hindsight, I guess, just because it just is more of like I could see younger people and families being really more into this one. Because again, like, let's get like me skipping past all of the mob parts when I first would watch the original, this is just this cuts directly to the good stuff,
No, totally. And it's really about the kids more so. I think that was the other thing about this film, is that the first film is not about kids. It's about Dolores, who has this kind of like, life that she's not exactly happy in. But, she's a singer in Reno, so like she's not doing the best, I guess, but she's living. And she gets put into hiding, and she's able to find herself more, and she's able to discover, how she gets to teach these nuns her talent and her gift. Do you know what I mean? And that's like so super cool. And I think she does the same thing in this movie with these kids, but I think it's like, to your point, Ari, though, like this movie really latches on to the kids and their whole kind of like journey through this. It's not like, oh, these poor kids, but it's really just like you were saying, these kids are in the middle of San Francisco, and it is made a point that like this neighborhood is not the same as it was. You know what I mean? Which we could still say about San Francisco today. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of the highest populations of unhoused, people, and it's super expensive to live there, and that doesn't help either. So it's like, I'm sure you're also seeing that it's obviously gentrification, of course. Full House is a farce. So, but like, but it is, however slight it is, there's a little bit of comment there, if anything, because it's saying, oh, this is not like it was before. And the first one was kind of a little bit saying that too as well, because it was also set in San Francisco. So fair enough. Which a lot of these shots in San Francisco are so beautiful. Oh my God. It's like Princess Diaries kind of thing, because that was also shot in like San Francisco too. I was just like, oh, this city. Like it just looks so nice. And
I
then
do
you're
love
like,
San Francisco when I visit, but yeah, but we almost ended up in that area, and it's like I'm really glad we didn't, because how would we live? Because we probably wouldn't.
right. I just saying, you'd have to like live in a suburb, and you wouldn't be able to live in the proper.
Yep.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
And even that is a whole other thing. Anyway, but yeah, so but that is in this movie, even how slight I feel like. Yeah, because it's never about like, oh, poor kids. Oh, these poor inner city kids. I don't know. Like I don't know what you think about this, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't go to an inner city school, so I have no real context or personal experience for it. But I don't know. I feel like they handled that, if anything. I don't know. They handle it fine. I don't ever think it was handled untactfully, really.
I think it was, I mean, I think it's very reflective of a lot of the types of films around then. And it was a little less white savior-y than, for a number of reasons, than some of the other ones are. Like
Music of the Heart, almost.
Yeah, I'm thinking even like Stand By Me, which even that, or I'm sorry, Lean on Me, which is kind of similar in the sense of like teacher coming in and this is a troubled school, and that Dangerous Minds type of setup. So it kind of is that, in that vein, but not quite, because I do think, what I really appreciate about this movie is the ensemble of young actors, like their rapport and the ways that they kind of like jab at each other, and the ways they talk about, expectations of them. Like people think that we're not going to do anything. So it's not even like, oh God, look at these kids, like they're in need of saving. They're aware of that. And I think it really touches on the systemic nature of like, when you're in these cycles, in certain areas, it's hard to get out of it. It's hard to think of a life beyond what your reality is right in front of you, especially if you have parents who struggled, which is, Sheryl Lee Ralph, Lauryn Hill's mom.
Love.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's so good. And she's just like, her look. I remember I was so scared of her. I was like, oh my God, if she was my mom, I'd be terrified all the time. But she's so sweet in Abbott Elementary. But anyway, she's fantastic. But it's like very clear, like your dad died trying to become a musician. He didn't end up making anything in his life, and he ended up kind of spiraling, which it's a thing that happens, if you're an aspiring artist.
One of the lines that kind of got me as well, which again, I don't know if it goes as deep, but like, saying there's plenty of talented people on the street.
Yeah.
And just having that line in there is like, oh God, like that's very true. Like as somebody who went to theater school and did not pursue that whatsoever, really, but you end up finding something else to do, because you're like, how would I even do that? Like, how would I even be a musician? How would I be an actor? How would I do these things? And not saying you can't do it, but I'm just saying, like, you got to be realistic,
And the odds are stacked against you if like your goal is I want to be, a movie star, or I want to be a top 40 singer. I think that's like, I mean, again, I went to school working in music industry for a bit, and to make a career out of that, it requires a lot of sacrifice. So I get where they're coming from, and it really actually kind of pushes this idea of like, well, if you want to do something, it has to be practical. You can't, like, why follow your dreams of doing, exploring art or exploring like the new knowledge? Why don't you just go become a doctor or a lawyer? If not, then just at least have a job somewhere nearby so we can pay the bills. So it's kind of like stripped of joy. I mean, and I think this movie does a really good job of contrasting that with just like the joy you get watching them perform as they're getting, better at their craft, and just at the end, like it's just a spectacle where you're just smiling. I remember smiling so hard when I first saw that.
Yeah, because they also have like, are there any particular notable scenes? Because I want to keep the conversation going, obviously. I don't want to take, this could turn into like a 3-hour conversation, honestly. But are there any notable scenes that kind of stick out in your head for this movie that just really that it just like resonate with you, or that, like I said, I think the scenes with Lauryn Hill and Sheryl Lee Ralph as mother-daughter, any of those scenes that's playing right now where she literally says that line I was just said, it's that scene. But is there anything in particular that stands out to you? Any of these scenes that are like, impactful, or
I guess beyond the obvious, like for entertainment value. Like, of course, I love all the performances. I think they're fantastic, really well executed. There's one scene, it's so funny. So whenever Rita, Lauryn Hill's character, and Tanya's practicing a solo for church, and she's singing His Eyes on the Sparrow, and then Rita ends up singing with her. And Sister Mary Robert, the nun with the big voice, overhears them, and basically it's like just interrupts them while they're rehearsing, and it's kind of like this moment where you just feel like, holy shit, like this girl can sing, and together they just sound so beautiful. And so that part, I remember for me, was like something about it was just really inspiring, I think. And then it kind of leads into whenever Dolores talks to Rita and basically saying, like, what's your deal? Why do you have such an attitude with me? Like, why can't you just get on board with this? Clearly you have talent. And she gives her, she talks about, what is it? Letters to a Young Poet, Rainer Maria Rilke, and talks about like a part in it where it's like, don't ask me about becoming a writer. If you want to be a writer, if you wake up one day and you decide I'm a writer, then you're a writer. Like, don't ask someone else for their approval to explore explore your dreams and really pursue that. And so if you wake up in the morning and all you can think about is singing, you're supposed to be a singer. So I love that, because I remember it being so, like, I've always been a creative and in my own time, like I've tried to make careers out of it here and there, but it's something that's always been deeply personal. And I think there's especially in like, I think about families of color too. Like how I grew up in a town of mostly Black and brown people, mostly brown people. But really there's this idea of like, you have to prove yourself by having this really successful, kind of like normal career. And so the idea of exploring things that are not typical, like wanting to do writing, wanting to sing, it's kind of shut down as not realistic. And that really spoke to me, because I was like, this is like giving me permission to like own that part of me that loves creativity. And I think about that a lot, actually. It's like, oh yeah, I decide like what I am. Like I decide, especially if I spend so much time thinking about films, thinking about writing, why wouldn't that be a big part of my identity? Why is that something that I have to kind of put aside for the sake of becoming an adult? So I actually have carried that with me for a really long time. So silly as it is, yeah, it's been very inspiring to me.
I don't think it's silly at all, really. I think like it's not that. I mean, part of it is like, yeah, if you want to do something, then go do it, and you should pursue it, my podcast in particular, I mean, I did this when I was unemployed at one point, and I just decided to start it, and I've been able to be consistent on something that I really am not all that consistent on anything in my life half the time, except with working and like paying bills and shit. But like, the fact that I've been able to make a show like this and do it for 70 plus episodes now is really cool. And it's something I can take pride in and feel like I have been able to do something cool, and I'm happy to do that. So, it's like, but anything, whether it's doing a podcast, whether it's like starting a theater company, whether it's like pursuing an acting career or like whatever the fuck, go do it, because you're like, you get enjoyment out of it, because it feeds something in you. And I think that this movie in particular too does dip into that, more so. I don't think the first movie did as much, really.
No,
the first movie
focus
to me,
was more, it was different. It was more about the narrative of like keeping the secret of she's not really a nun. I think
exactly
that being free of that and having everyone know, everyone who matters, all the sisters be aware of that and support her. I think it leaves a lot more space to explore other things, which is why I really think that's why I probably resonated more with it, just because the themes made sense to me in my life as a kid.
No, of course. Yeah, that's totally fair. I'm trying to think if there's any other particular scenes that, kind of stand out to me or whatever. I do love that scene with Sister Mary Robert, who is one of my favorite characters. I love her so much.
Oh, she's adorable.
She's so adorable. And also just like, I don't know. It's just nice that like, oh, like Sister Mary Clarence helped me, you know, and I think she could help you too, you know, and just in doing that, I think that's like really cool. Yeah, I think there's that. I also love, but there's also like a fair amount of, we also got to talk about the fact as well. So yeah, we talked about some of the scenes and all this. Some of the characters, do you have a particular favorite character or anything in this movie that you like?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I always will love Sister Mary Patrick, Peggy Hill. I think she is just she's so
Kathy
joyful.
Najimy.
Anytime Kathy Najimy's on screen, she just like makes you smile, especially how playful she is. And this, it's just so, it's like so cute to see someone in her position just be, it's like that good vibes only, which, you know, toxic positivity, it does exist. And
it does.
And also like in this reality, she's just such a foil to so many people. Like it's just, her energy is just infectious. So anytime she's on screen, I love seeing her. I'll always love Sister Mary Robert. I was in love with her in the first movie. I thought she's just amazing. And I know that's not her actual voice, but it's like, I look at that actor, Wendy McKinnon, and I'm like,
right,
you're it, girl. Like she was, she's just fantastic, and she does that so well. And of the kids, I mean, I really like Rita. Her arc, of course, is like, you know, she's a tough nut to crack, but then she does, and she's amazing.
Yeah,
and I love the Tyler, the nerdy kid that everyone kind of picks on. Yeah, there's just a lot of, I don't know. There's just like, I think the kids actually are really well written, and they are reflective of that time. And just like, I remember being around people who spoke to each other like that and who used this type of slang. And it was just like really cool to see that. So I think in general, just the new ensemble, it really adds like another layer having the kids there.
Agreed. I love like when they're it can come off as maybe a little cringy, but like when they're in the beginning and they're like rapping, what is their fucking rap that they're doing when she enters there? The fuck is that again?
The one that Whoopi does?
No, not her. No, when she comes into the school, comes into the classroom, what are they rapping?
Oh, yeah. I forget the lyrics, but yeah.
Collard greens and something. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't remember.
I don't either,
so funny.
But yeah, no, like there's like this whole, it's very much like, it makes sense to me, like why certain cultures have latched onto this movie, because it feels real. Like it feels real in the sense of, you know, seeing yourself on screen represented, like, you know, as like one of the main characters. Like, I think that's fantastic. And it's so, like movies just don't, like, that was just kind of inherently what they did, you know, in this film. It wasn't something where it's like, let's pull in, let's make sure we have this representation and that representation. It just really was reflective, I think, of just the population of San Francisco. So it was cool to see that and have it not be, you know, a bunch of white kids at a private school.
Yeah, no, totally. I completely get that. I also like how they do want us to believe that some of these people are teenagers. I'm like, a lot of Ubach was like fully 25. Like,
that's just par for the course in the 90s. I think like 25-year-old teenagers everywhere.
although our girl J Love, I mean, she was literally 14 or 15, and also Ryan. And also Ryan Toby was like 16 or something. Like, so there are some,
they look young. Yeah.
They really do.
Balance it out.
Everywhere else. But I'm looking at this sketch, bro. I'm like, dude, you are like literally like 20 something years old.
Yeah, I'm like, you need to graduate the school at a point because you are well over 18.
I mean, come on now. Let's be real here, but it's fine. But yeah, no. Yeah, God, I mean, like one of my favorites. I mean, I really do love Rita a lot. I just like her. Like, I think her arc is really cool too. And I feel like I'm just like parroting you, but it's fine because I really do like a lot of these people. No, it's that, but also like I do love Alana Ubach's character, her small role or whatever, like how she doesn't know what Mary Had a Little Lamb is.
Yes, and she sings the Love Boat. The Love Boat.
Oh my God, that whole thing. Yes, it's very funny. Oh, but I also love like some of the friars like are just like,
yes.
Oh my God, like some of them, like, and how they do the whole thing where like they're at the state competition and they lock the one superintendent
with
using with the sausage. They lock him in the closet or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's so good.
Just that moment too, where oh gosh, what is the character's name? Michael Jeter. Whenever he is watching Rita sing at the beginning of the finale, where she's singing
Father Ignatius.
Ignatius, yeah. And I think, and he's like crying. He starts crying, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's how I felt watching this for the first time. It was so moving.
My gay self also feels this.
Yes. We got a lot of feelings, us gays.
I also, even though she might have been a little scary, but like also like, oh, Shirley Ralph is so good in this movie. And what I love, we could also talk about how gay this movie is, but like literally, like I love the fact that Bill Duke probably helped cast her really because she's a fucking dream girl, dude. Like it's literally her, Loretta Devine, Jennifer Holliday. Like, I mean, come on. Like, but you know, that's a dream girl, baby. So like work. But like the fact that she's playing this person who is like, so like, you know, don't have your head in the clouds, daughter, or whatever. And you're literally Sheryl Lee Ralph. I just think that's very funny. Like, it's just, that's like a conscious choice to cast her. Obviously, she's a fucking amazing actress, obviously, but I also like how, like, obviously you cast her because it's like, yeah, I mean, you would cast this fucking Broadway star to be the mom of like, you need to be practical, honey. Like, you know, obviously, like that makes sense.
And she doesn't even sing, or she's never, you know, doing her full, you know,
yeah, she's doing hair and everything, right? Exactly, but. Like, come on now. Oh god, it's so good. Yeah, let's talk about how gay this movie is.
Sure,
like,
always.
Oh Jesus. Like, the reason I say this movie is very gay, both of these movies are very gay, but like the reason I say that is because there's a level of camp that's in here, or just heightened sensibility, if anything. What with the musical, like they ate with the music in this movie, obviously, but like just the fact of like these musical numbers are just so heightened and awesome. It's that, but also just like this like weird, I don't know, it's just like this Catholic like school setting, I guess. Like I don't know, it just feels like something a little heightened. Having someone like Michael Jeter in this movie, you know, queer man, obviously, but I don't know, like I just feel like there is a certain queer sensibility throughout these movies. Do you also know about the director of the first movie?
Like, no, what particularly?
Do you know that the director of the first movie, Emil, hold on, let me remember his name. Let me get my little papers together. Emil Ardolino. Do you know what other movie he also directed?
No, not off the top of my head.
He directed Dirty Dancing, my friend.
Oh, that's probably why I don't know it, because that's not one of my favorites.
Oh,
I know,
bitch.
I get like attacked every time I say that.
No, I'm not going to attack you, but I just, bitch, like you need to watch it. It's really good. I just did.
I will rewatch it. I used to be forced to watch it as a kid because my mom and, you know, like older relatives loved it.
I understand. And it was my sister's favorite movie, and I never watched it like that, but it's actually good. I think it's good, at least. But anyway, but yeah, he's the one who directed that, and then he directed this the first movie, and then he promptly passed away from AIDS complications, unfortunately. But he was a gay man, so he directed the first movie, and you know, all that. So, but I don't know, I think like this movie just has this like certain sensibility, whether it's like the musical numbers in this, it's the like heightened like, this is what Catholic school is, everybody. I'm just like, okay.
And it's like, no, it's not.
I don't know. I didn't go to Catholic school, but something tells me that this might not be, you know, true to form, if anything.
What's happening, at all the Catholic schools, they're all just secretly housing these like amazing professional choirs.
Exactly. Did you go to religious school?
I didn't know. I went to public school.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. You know, not like I had money or anything. What the hell?
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Come on now.
Paying to go to school? What the hell?
What the hell? No, we're not doing that. For Jesus? Okay. But anyway, no, I just think like, do you have any thought about like, you know, these movies in particular having any sort of like gay anything like sensibility or any of that kind of stuff? I don't know. I feel like I saw it especially, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. And the way in general, I think that, you know, like I love musical theater, and that's something that I was not ever exposed to really growing up. Like it's kind of something that I discovered when I did my undergrad in New York, and then I got to go start seeing shows, and, you know, so I think for me, like there's just something about like you said, the heightened reality. It's almost like surreal of just the way people are with each other, the way that's the film, the society works in the film, even something about it. It's just like on another level of kind of reality, I guess. And because of that, like, I think it makes it kind of safe. It feels safe for people who to go there to like be into like, this is a movie about singing and I'm a little boy in a very like masculine, environment.
Right.
And this is something that's accessible for me to kind of own this part of myself or like connect with it. And so in that sense, a lot of that stuff to me is tied into my queerness. So it's always been, everything that I love growing up for the most part, I'm like, it's because it spoke to me. It's because it spoke to me and that part of me that really didn't have other outlets then. And so music was how I kind of like really connected with like my sensitive side, my feelings and just the way, and just kind of like kindness, trying to be kind to yourself and learning a lot of lessons through that. So for me, it's like all really kind of tied together, I guess. It's just, I watch something with a musical and it makes me feel joy, and it's okay for me as a cis man to enjoy that, to do that. And I think it challenges a lot of that. My dad loved this movie too. So it's like, these are, I think for me, it's that. And then also like, just like the lounge singer aspect and like what she brings, what Dolores brings to that's so camp and it's wonderful. It's so fun.
Completely.
The, kind of like the twisted covers of the Jeezified covers of famous songs, Motown.
The fucking end credits of this movie in particular.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
It's I love that. I miss seeing credits where people are just kind of like dancing around and singing a new number for no reason.
Oh my God. Yes. If you don't already know, listener, the movie ends with the literal cast of this movie. Whoopi Goldberg looking great in this like blue number or something. Bitch, she looks so good.
That white background. Oh yeah.
Oh my God. And they're just like all singing and it's just like they're lip syncing and it's fucking incredible. And I literally watched this movie. It's playing in the background right now, but I watched it for the first time and I watched the end credits. I was like, oh, this movie is a 4.5 for me. Like, what the fuck? Like just those end credits alone. I'm like, oh, this is at least a good 4. Like, because
I mean,
Bill Duke is not gay by any means, but like having something like that is just so over the top and camp, and it's of the time in the 90s. Like, oh God, yes. Side note: so you said you went to school in New York and all that. You said you went to school technically with Ilana Glazer. Does that also mean you technically went to school with Rachel Bloom too?
I don't think we were. Well, if we were there at the same time, I don't know her. She maybe is a little bit ahead of me. Ilana was my year because I met her my freshman year.
You're right. Because they roomed together, so that's why I asked.
Oh, because I know. Yeah, I actually my ex lived on the same floor as Ilana, and so Rachel probably was there. I'd imagine.
Most likely, yeah.
I just never encountered her.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that's now famous or anything.
I mean, we're not like friends. I don't like chat with Ilana Glazer or anything, but I love to throw that out there because I just love. She is that. Like what I've known of her, she is that character, and she's lovely. She's fantastic.
Yeah. Did you actually go to Tisch? Like seriously, or like, oh my God?
So I was in Steinhardt initially, and it's like that's where they house like the music, so like music tech and music business.
That's not the School of Drama, but they stick on the
So then I transferred out to this the program where you can basically develop your own concentrations.
That's fair.
And so then I took a bunch of Tisch classes. So I was in that space, not in acting, but in their musical recorded music.
Oh, look at you being a little NYU baddie. Okay, good for you. Anyway, so rich, privileged people all around you, I guess.
Oh my God, everywhere. Christ. And I was there, and I'm still sitting in so much debt because of that. But I would never change it for the world. It was a great experience.
Why not? Apparently, I don't know, right? Exactly. And then also, like I think like not that I knew her or anything, but like apparently Jane Levy went to my college for a semester, and I was like, that's fun. Oh. From the,
I love her.
The remake of Evil Dead,
which I adore. And she was in the wonderful Cancel Too Early Suburgatory, which is just such a good show.
Made by the creator of As Told with Ginger. Oh, love that. Good for her. I think it's the same lady, isn't it? Emily Kapnick. Maybe I'm thinking of a different person.
I think it is.
Yeah, she made As Told with Ginger too.
Yeah, it is her.
Love that. Yes, bitch. This movie's just so fucking gay, dude. And I love that for that. But, I mean, like, I think if anything, I think we've talked a fair amount about, this movie in general or whatever. Talked about some of the scenes, talked about these musical numbers. Joyful, fucking amazing. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I don't know how I feel about that superintendent taking the credit at the end. That's kind of shady. I don't know how I feel about that.
He sucks.
He does suck. He's so horrible.
He's
Um,
bad.
he's so bad. But anyway, at least with the other friars, they're like, they kind of get together and they're just like, we're gonna lock this bitch in a closet. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, I love that. He got what he deserved.
it's so good. Anyway, but yeah. But to kind of like wrap up a little bit about what we think of this movie or anything like that, our final thoughts, as I say with Jerry Springer, rest in peace. You know, because he has closing thoughts on his show.
Oh yeah,
trash,
I remember
trash
for
show.
sure.
But do you have any kind of closing thoughts on this movie? Like, what does it mean to you? Like, what you'd want to impart onto other people, I guess. I don't know. Just what are your closing kind of remarks about this movie, and you know why it's a good little watch or whatever. Do you think, actually, before we do that, do you think there's anything in this movie that does not work, that does not age well at all, like anything at all, or anything?
I think maybe some of like the slang and stuff, it's only because of like, you know, out of the time, it just is silly. And probably people these days, if you're younger, especially, and you don't have any frame of reference for the 90s, like some of it may be just like super cringy to you, which I get. I mean, again, it's pretty campy in that way too, but
yeah, totally.
But no, I mean, I think, I mean, again, this is like one of my all-time favorite movies. This is 5 stars, you know, but without question for me, for a number of reasons. And so, yeah, I just like, I've been really, really heartened to see people like talk about this more over the years since its release. And I'm really glad that it's gotten, you know, more of a cult following over the years. And like it's they reference it in The Blackening. I just watched The Blackening last week, and they do she uses like the Pay Attention song to calm her, which is, I think it's amazing. And it really speaks to just kind of the cultural impacts of this movie outside of, you know, what we would see as like the mainstream, or outside of for the mainstream white audiences, like you said earlier. It's just, it wasn't made with those people in mind, which it feels like, which I really appreciated. And that's something that for me, you know, I love seeing a film, reflecting on a film growing up, even that did a lot for me just as a human, as far as representation, as far as like, oh, this is like something that I could relate to, or this is something that brings me joy, and it's cool to see it on screen. You don't get a lot of musicals, so to speak, like this,
right?
You know, in the same vein. So, yeah, I think for me, that's a big thing. I think it's like absolutely worth a watch if you just kind of want to like unwind and have a really good time and be really kind of like wholesomely entertained, which I really love about this too. It's very like, I always say like I Love Lucy is like one of my favorite shows of all time. And because it's like, it's just wholesomely funny. It's just like pure comedy that doesn't rely on like any kind of, you know, you don't have to be, it's not like Judd Apatow, right? Like you're not like dropping bombs and flashing your tits everywhere, like for the sake of humor, which again, there's a place for all that too. It's just kind of like, I find that certain movies that have kind of this pure, it's almost like timeless, the way that it, you know, delivers comedy in a way that has like a real heart. This is one of those movies that like is there for me. And it's, again, like even beyond that, like I do think it's funny, and I do think it's like moving, and I think it's just like really entertaining, and the music's fantastic, like we've said many times. So, I think I would just say like, it's, if you want to feel happy, put on this movie. And the first one too. The first one's great, but this one is just kind of, I think it elevates the vibe, the joy vibe.
Absolutely. I'm literally watching Joyful with the sound off right now because we're recording. And you were talking about how Mr. Noodle is crying when he's hearing Lauryn Hill sing. And I just was like, oh, I was moved. Sorry. Like, oh.
No, it's so sweet. It's one of my favorite moments.
It's so cute. Oh my God. And then they're just like in their 90s wear with these mom jeans. Oh my fucking God.
Oh, those, and which again, some of those people, that's how some of my younger clients look these days. They love the 90s vibes, which I always am here for.
Hell yes. No, so yeah, first off, Blackening, so good. I just watched it today, actually. Because cool. I wanted to see what the reference was. And yes, like if you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you need to stand up and pay attention. Like I missed it first, but then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, bitch, I'll get this. That movie's so fucking good. It's really good. But with this film, though, as you were stating, I think all of that is definitely in there. I love a movie that is, yes, kind of wholesome, but also is super fun. That's my love that I have for something like Baps, for example. I'm so glad I found that movie because like that's a movie that does not rely on super crude humor. It does rely a little bit on stereotypes, perhaps, but also like it doesn't use like any racial slurs or anything, like any of that kind of shit, but it's still so funny, you know? And I really appreciate that. And with this kind of movie, especially, like this has become something where, you know, especially in the Black community, it's a kind of staple of a film, which is cool. But also, I do think like this film, is just something where it is just joy. It's just pure unadulterated joy, and I really appreciate that, and I enjoy that. And I just and, you know, I don't really want them to make a third one. I know that they are kind of in the works to maybe do that. I think it'll be like Hocus Pocus 2, which I have not watched, but I don't think it'll be that good.
Well, I mean, I like Hocus Pocus 2 fine. I just think that it's
but those vibes.
Yeah, what I want, I just feel like something about it, it's not going to quite work for me right now.
Exactly. I feel,
and I'm not precious about that. I'm not someone who's like, don't ever make a sequel to my favorite, whatever, because every film can stand alone. You know, it's its own thing. But if I did want it for any reason, maybe they could like, I don't know, pull some stuff from the musical. Maybe they could. That would be interesting. But not, I'd be curious to see what they try to do with it. And it's just, there's so much magic within the time period when the originals existed that it's hard to think of what that could even look like now.
No, totally. And even like maybe even doing like a adaptation of the musical would be fine. But like, but I don't know, just a continuation of it. But this movie is just so joyful. Joyful. It really is. But like, and I just love that it is joyful. It's happy. It has diversity in it, which is cool, you know, and I can just really get behind that. And I'm so glad I have been exposed to these movies in particular, just because like, I think that, you know, Disney, I mean, again, labor practices aren't always the best. They're $1 billion corporation that owns fucking everything in entertainment, hardly, you know, but they can produce some bangers, and these two movies especially are that, I feel like. So yeah, my closing remarks are just like, go watch this movie if you have Disney. Like, you know, fucking do it, dude. Like, own these. Like, it's fun. It's something that's family friendly, you know, and that doesn't always mean a bad thing, you know. So
I
don't know. I feel like there was another thing I wanted to say, but I don't remember it now. So it's all good, you know, whatever. But I want to just thank you so much, Ari, for coming on the show. Again, we're strangers. I don't know you like that, but I mean, it's been cool to, you know, talk to you. And you know, if anything, I think you have some insightful points about, you know, just like living as a, you know, gay person and a person of color as well. And that's why I wanted to have you talk about this movie too, because, you know, I'm just some white guy, you know, so like, you know, but I wanted to get that other perspective on a film like this that means something to you in particular. And again, I'm glad you exposed me to it because it's great. Like, I mean, it's awesome. But but I think that's everything I can think right now, though. But do you want to like plug your socials or anything like that, you know, for people who don't already know who you are and if they want to find you and stalk you?
Sure. If you want to get at me, I'm at the Ari Drew, TheAridrew on Twitter /X, Blue Sky. I think I also have that, and Facebook, Instagram, you know, all that stuff. I usually will post, you know, pieces that I've written, new stuff that I'm working on. Yeah. And you'll see, I mean, obviously you'll see like links to different podcasts I've been on, different things I enjoy talking about, like found footage and horror, obviously, but also this type of stuff. And so thank you for giving me a reason to not do a horror movie, to talk about something else that I love. I've done this a few times, and it's always really, really fun to get to, you know, be a full 3-dimensional human who likes more than just horror movies, even though ain't nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I am happy to have had you on for this, and it's been cool. And then who knows, we might be hearing very shortly about another movie that is also not horror. And we're going to have a whole conversation about that. Not you and me, but you know, some other people as well. So that'll be fun.
But
yeah,
I'll keep my eyes out.
Of course. But thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can do so via email at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com in case you want to give any movie or episode recommendations, give feedback on the show, or if you'd like to just say, hey, I'm open to all of it. If you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can do so on Instagram and Instagram threads at Cult Cinema Circle. I tend to post what I'll be covering for the next week on there, post stories, things like that. On X, I'm at Cult Cine Circle. On there, I don't really post a whole lot, but if you want to follow the show, it's there for you to follow. And then on Letterboxd, I'm at Jesse, Jesse, Kremp, Kremp, all one word. On there, I log little movie reviews, I'll log what I'm watching, and then it's also a nice way to kind of see what I might be covering on the show in the future. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast on your podcatcher of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm pretty much on all of them. Be sure to leave 5 stars and a 1 to 2 sentence review about the show so we can grow the audience and then just spread the love all around. Be sure to tune in next week to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast, where I'll be covering 2002's The Hot Chick. Not only is Jessica Spencer the most popular girl in school, she's also the meanest. But things change for the attractive teen when a freak accident involving a cursed pair of earrings and a chance encounter at a gas station causes her to switch bodies with Clive, a sleazy crook. Jessica, in the form of the repulsive Clive, struggles to adjust to this radical alteration and sets out to get her own body back before the upcoming prom. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. And remember, if you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. Take care. Bye.